Hi and welcome to this video blog. Thanks for linking in. I'm glad you have. As you can see, I'm in a different setting today. I'm actually outdoors and apologize for wearing a cap, but I realized when I was filming this that the sun was shining off my head and that could be a distraction. My head could be a distraction. I can't do much about that, but the sun was shining off it, so I thought I'd put a cap on. As you know, I share a thought, and we've just shared in Australia Father's Day, and the thought for this video blog is, leaders, what have you learned from your dad? Leaders, what have you learned from your dad? And I realize that might not be an easy question, and you can learn things not necessarily because your dad was a great example, though I hope he was, but you might have learned some things because he was a bad example, and you've learned some things despite his example too. That's certainly my experience. So I want to share three things today about what I've learned from my dad in terms of leadership. Let me give you some context. My dad was a great guy, but he was a really bad alcoholic. He died of cirrhosis of the liver when I was 12 years of age. He was 52. So he died young and early, and with this kind of condition that had taken him over for many, many years. He wasn't an abusive alcoholic. He wasn't a violent man. There was no domestic violence in my home, but he would just sit around each night and get drunk. And as I said, I only knew him up to the age of 12 when he passed away. So I want to share three things. The first one is this, that I learned the importance of presence. I don't mean gifts, I mean presence, being present. And I say that because my dad, who was always there, was still not present with us. You can be present with someone physically, but not present with them emotionally, and really in thought, and really connected and engaged. And that was the story of my dad. He was there with me, but he wasn't present with us as a family. I never doubted my dad loved me or cared for me, but there was always something going on. There was some other way we were trying to tiptoe around him or walk on eggshells. And as a leader, presence is really important. I've learned that over the years, that just being present with people, not just having jobs for them to do, not just having a role for them to play, not just giving them orders and instructions, but actually being present, sometimes with no agendas, sometimes just caring for them, is a really important thing to do. You cannot overestimate the importance of presence. And I learned that from my dad in a negative kind of way, because he was, even though he was there with us, he wasn't really present with us. So that was an important lesson, to be present as a leader, to be with your staff, to be with the people you lead, with your teams, and with your family, of course, is a really important thing. Physically, emotionally, with energy, and with engagement, really important. Second thing I learned was not to become a victim, not to think negatively about myself and the circumstances I went through. As I said, it was tough. My mum became a single mum when I was 12 years of age, obviously, and it was tough growing up. She had not a lot of money and not a lot of things, and it would be really easy to play on the fact that I've had a poor upbringing and a poor, circumstances in my past, and to play on those, and to become the victim. And it's really easy in leadership to do that, to become negative, to blame other people, or to be upset because someone else has got more resources than you, or someone else's organization's in a better location than yours is, or someone else has got a better staff, or there's some reason why you can be negative about your circumstances or about your situation, and even become the victim. And it really doesn't help you in a leadership role. In a leadership role, you have to look as optimistically as you can. That doesn't mean be stupidly blind about what's ahead of you, or be foolish in that regard, but you cannot play a victim role. If you play the victim role and start getting into contrast and comparison because someone else is doing better than you are, and there's all sorts of reasons for that, and you're hard done by, that will be unhelpful in any leadership role, in any leadership position you have. So don't, when you come to situations, your past can be a very positive or a negative thing if you let it, but you've got to really set your own mindset on being positive about about your own leadership. Third thing I'd say is this, and it's understand what you've learned from your past. Understand what you've learned from that. I said my dad was a very poor alcoholic, and because of that, at 12 years of age, I chose not to drink. It's just my particular choice, and nothing wrong with having a drink at all. But for me personally, I saw what it did to me and my family, and I chose not to do that. But when I got to about 40 years of age, I realized that I'd become a workaholic. And it was some of the same traits and drivenness that probably were in my dad caused me to be addicted to something else. It wasn't alcohol, but it was work. And work is a much more respectable agent, but it's still an agent that caused addiction in me, and I had to be very careful about that. And in fact, I still have to be really careful about being addicted to work and being a workaholic. So even though it was a negative experience to have an alcoholic father, there's still something in me. I don't know whether it's genetic, I don't know whether I picked it up or how it happened, but there's still something in me that has almost an addictive personality to work, and that's not helpful either. So I've learned those things. I'm sure I've learned a lot more from my dad, and I'm sure I'll still be learning lots of things as I go on in life and pick up some of the things and go, aha, I realise where I've got that from. But just be helpful. It was helpful to me to understand the importance of presence, to be really engaged as a leader, the importance of not playing the victim and seeing everything from a negative point of view, and how hard done by I was. And thirdly, to understand some of the things I have picked up from an example, whether it's good or bad, understanding where they came from. So hopefully that's helpful in this thought. So until next time, stay well, take care, and see you soon.